Welcome to the Radio Maxx interview, Henika. How are you doing today?
Hi, thank you for having me. Yes, I'm well, thank you.
That's great to hear. It's also good to hear that I can see that you're all smiley and you're in this amazing, fun space and a happy space.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing that we have a platform to speak about things like we're about to speak about. So happy to be here.
Yes, and you're welcome to speak about anything you want. We actually like the fact that people open up to us. So let's just start with your journey as such. Before you became a yoga teacher, or a yogini as it's known, what were you doing?
Yeah, so my trajectory into the yoga world was actually very different. My academic background is English law with French law and French language. So very, very academic, very in the mind actually for a lot of years. And I felt that after I studied, I still had a lot of questions, and these are more questions of the heart, which could not really be answered by what you study in books. So I worked on different projects around the world, different research projects, and kind of started to travel and explore a little bit of those questions.
Right. And so that was going to lead you to being the yoga teacher. Was the journey something that happened within England, or you had to kind of go back to the roots, the homeland, as it were?
Well, the way I see it, the seed was already planted. I think
right.
Growing up as a first generation Indian in the UK gives you a really unique perspective where you're already introduced to a lot of the spiritual practices. I think the only thing for me is that I didn't really understand the why. And to understand the why, I had to make that journey to understand it myself. And yes, definitely to go back to the homeland and explore it there.
And I think that there would be a massive difference in the way things operate across the continents. What was the most striking difference going back from the UK and letting yourself seep into that otherworldly ancient culture?
Well, I think it's just that it's so much a part of normal life, of everyone's life, that it feels very natural to step back into it. And it feels very innate, actually, that you're reconnecting rather than discovering something that's totally new. So I wouldn't say it was striking, but I think it had a resonance to it. It felt familiar. And I think that that's a message that I want to send with any first generation Indians, that actually this is already a part of you to explore. It's already there.
Yes. Some of it does get lost, I think, intergenerational across so many different countries, different cultures around you. So was that something that you felt you were missing in the previous part of your journey when you were working in the corporate world?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when I was in the corporate world, I observed that there was a lot of stress and there wasn't always the tools to navigate that stress. But again, I said that seed was already planted. So I felt there was already something that I knew to solve this problem. So I kind of put one and one together and started teaching yoga meditation in my workplace and kind of planted it in a place that it never had existed before, and saw that actually it was creating really powerful results and a space within this busy world for you to pause, connect with yourself, and then spring on from there to the rest of your day.
What sort of business was that corporate company into, if that's not too much to ask?
Yes, it was actually a very big government embassy.
Right.
So it was abroad. I was working deployed abroad. So yeah, right. So a range of colleagues from British colleagues, but also I was based in Asia. So it was also colleagues based from there. Yeah.
So it was diplomatic tensions.
You could say that, but it's all about, I suppose, calming that, I suppose, and that starts from the journey within. So, yeah.
No, I can imagine how it would be difficult as well, because you'd have time differences, and there's always politics at work, and there's always trying to find yourself within a bigger, larger structure, and being able to express yourself and find your way to get through it.
Yeah,
I'm guessing that was something that you kind of latched onto early on, in terms of saying, what am I bringing to the table?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is again this viewpoint of where you grow up with Eastern cultures. It's a lot about we. What do we want? What do we do? And in the corporate world, it's more about I. What do I want? Where can I get? How can I do this? And for me, it was trying to marry those two things up without changing myself, without losing sight of my culture and who I was and what my values were. So yeah, so I tried to express myself in that way by bringing my culture to the table, and it was lovingly accepted.
You're very right. I think even on a cultural level, our societies tend to be, or used to be perhaps, more individualistic in the West and more community and family in the East, as it were. And I'm not saying one is better than the other, or there's some kind of comparison in terms of what would serve you better. But I think you would have found that bringing community together was always the way forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And it worked really well. It worked really well because it created a space within this I society to become a we. Right. Because actually, even in the corporate world, you are with a family. It's your work family. So it was just bringing a light to this.
That's awesome. Is there somebody from within the family that you would point out as the source of your inspiration to go down this journey, this path?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd say firstly, my grandmother, my ba, who taught me first by practice, just by observing how to be a spiritual person, how to be calm, how to be loving. And then followed on into my father and my mother as well, who I've never seen a day where they don't meditate. So I think without being direct, kind of this is how you do this, but just by observation of what these practices can do and how they can help you in your life, I'd say, yeah, my family is definitely my first and foremost spiritual teachers.
So how old were you when you sat down with Ba and started to try and meditate like her, but didn't really know what the hell you were doing?
I think probably before I could walk, to be honest.
Oh, that would be so cute.
Yeah, well, I see it in my house at the moment because my nephew and my father, so the same dynamic is happening at the moment.
That's fascinating. That's intergenerational. That's really, really interesting. What did you experience in terms of that kind of trying to figure out the gap between the corporate world and this more spiritual path? What happened in that time or moment when you moved away from the corporate world? Like, were you disillusioned, or you just thought, no, this is not what I need to do something else?
Yeah, I think the more and more I connected to that space of we, even within the corporate world, the more I realized that that's the path that I needed to take. And whilst my mind was saying, stay on the corporate path, this will be good, this has good status, good money, good privileges, my heart was taking me in a totally different direction. Right. And I remember I had to phone my parents and have, I think, one of the most difficult conversations at that time that I had ever had, where I said, look, all of these years of study, all of these interviews, getting to where I want to go, actually, I don't want any of this anymore. And they turned around to me and they said, Veda, we never told you had to do this. And I thought, oh my gosh, you didn't. Where did I get this from? And then I thought, actually, society, education, it shapes you in almost such a way that academic progression is the only way. And I learned not the only way.
So then it has to be something that's innately passionate for you. It's what drives you, right? You're following your heart and your soul, as it were.
Yeah.
Would that be correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when I started to connect to the wisdom of my body, the wisdom of intuition, then this is when I started to live, I think, what's called in dharma, in what I felt was my purpose here. And that's when I feel like life really flowered and opened up for me.
Fascinating. And you find it's a difficult thing to bring others in who are, seduced by Western society, as it were, or you're finding that there are more and more takers?
I think there are more and more takers of this, actually, and the concept of yoga is already huge here, but actually in a very different way to how we learnt it growing up. So although the concept is familiar, a lot of my mission is translating ancient wisdom for modern times, and to do this in a way that is relatable, to do this in a way that can be applied to living in a modern world without having to renounce yourself from the modern world and become a monk. And yeah, that actually these are tools that can help us in the everyday, in that corporate life, in your relationships.
Are you able to share what that journey of self-discovery, which kind of happened more in India, but I guess it was overlapping with the, with your Brit experience as well. What did it comprise of? What were the things that kind of molded and shaped where you arrived to now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for me, the seed was planted quite young. I experienced the grief of a sibling at a very young age. And for me, the seed was planted at that age, that actually, so what is life? What are we meant to be doing in this place? And where do we go afterwards? So at first that meant the academic understanding. And then when that didn't fulfill totally what I was looking for, that meant moving to the heart. And that meant then going on these inner journeys. So first it meant traveling outside and connecting with different spiritual teachers in India, but also across Southeast Asia. So I sat with a lot of monks and learned kind of philosophical understandings of these things. And then also through very slow traveling. So actually removing myself from the material world, moving with just a backpack, and learning that actually along the path, a lot of the spiritual teachers that I came across were just the ordinary people that I met who were so kind to me, and who taught me so much about humanity through that. So,
and before we go any further, my sympathies and commiserations for having lost a sibling. And more be it that those kind of big occurrences in our life set us off on a different path so many times. And I think that's probably what happened with you as well. But when you were meeting these strangers almost who were willing to give of themselves to you, what was the basis of it all? Do you think it was just wanting to soak up the ancient wisdom, or was it the compassion they felt, or you could feel with them? What is it that helps a stranger just bridge that gap, that divide between one individual and another for you?
Yeah, I think this is something that was totally turned on its head that I experienced, where often in the West we're told, don't approach strangers, don't talk to strangers, don't help strangers even.
Stranger danger.
Yeah, stranger danger. And then when I was in the East, it was like, I was there alone. I would arrive in a new place, not sure of the language, not sure where I was going, not really sure of anything actually. And people would approach me because I looked a bit lost, and they would help me. And I learned that actually strangers aren't dangerous. And even without the communication of language, you can actually get a lot across through your emotions, through your body language, and ultimately through the language of kindness, which is universal.
So which parts of India were you traveling through when you were able to connect with all these people?
Yeah, so initially I'm Gujarati, so I went back to my home source, and I connected with local teachers there, where I would just go and have a very regular practice with them. And then that took me
Surat, Ahmedabad, or Navsari, where?
Yeah, near Ahmedabad.
Right.
Yeah, Tanku Padran. Yeah. So I would go there, and then I suppose from the travels, it wasn't that I would go looking for a teacher, but I would find one along the way. So like this. Just
kind of taking it a little bit towards this whole exploring your roots and the hair journey, if you like, for want of a better phrase. Would it be fair to say that oftentimes, and maybe this is a more Western thing, but maybe it happens to all humans all across all cultures, would it be fair to say that oftentimes women tend to change their hair and their appearance either in times of adversity, or maybe as an act of rebelliousness or self-expression or confusion? What are your thoughts on what it is that drives the dynamic for women to change or attain a different look?
Yeah, this is a really good question, because I think our hair is a big part of our identity, and I had to lose my hair to understand that, actually. So this is why I was really, really honoured to be asked to be part of the Vatika campaign, by Ethnic Reach, a PR company who wanted to represent real stories with relatable women who had really different stories around their hair. So mine was about how my identity was really kind of changed between that corporate world and moving into a more flowing world, followed by my heart. But there was also incredible stories about gender fluidity, about aging gracefully and how this can orientate your identity, and about strength. And this is really a remarkable thing to be a part of in the beauty industry, which is often only kind of shaped beauty standards around very fair, very kind of one-sided images. So yeah, really an honor to be a part of something that's making a big change, that makes it relatable.
What was your story like in terms of, you said you were losing your hair or you'd lost it. How did it go? What happened?
Yeah, so this was a part of my travels, actually. Lots happens to you when you travel, and I was living in Ghana for a while, and I had malaria. So just from the medication of malaria, I started to lose my hair. And when that happened, when you're having a shower and you feel clumps of hair coming out in your hand, I felt like, oh my gosh, I was actually losing a part of my identity. In my hair was my experiences, it was also my ego, it was also that old corporate life. And when I lost a lot of that and the new stuff came through, actually I felt there was a new identity coming through for me as well.
Yes. How did you find coming back from it? Well, like growing it back made you feel confident again, or was it like you had to battle something else to find your center?
I think all of these experiences, they led me closer and closer to not what was external to me, but to the undercurrent of what was underneath that, who I was underneath that. And that existed whether I had hair or I didn't have hair. So each of these experiences led me deeper and deeper into this journey of trying to understand what was happening under the surface.
So in a way, it is definitely about roots, the inner roots.
Yeah, absolutely. And connecting to my inner roots was a huge part of that journey.
You've kind of addressed it already, but in terms of the collaboration you have with Vatika and Roots, what is the best way you're finding that making that connection and that expression is serving part of what your needs are, to express this and to get it out to people, and of course, part of what their needs are from the Roots perspective. But what are your thoughts on that collaboration? Does it kind of just fits in?
Yeah, I felt when Ethnic Reach reached out to me, it made sense. It really made sense for me, because I felt that, as I mentioned earlier, the media that I had grown up with didn't represent these stories. And so for me, it was a natural fit. And connecting with my roots was already a journey that I was on. So it felt very natural to me to have a space to share that. Both with my hair, but also with connecting to my ancestry and the spiritual practices that are so powerful for all of us to explore.
So big ups to your own sense of self and your cultural roots, and the fact that it's connecting the roots all around. I love it.
Thank you.
You've also been quite successful at launching more than one portal, as it were, or one business. Is that something you are happy talking about, or because it might have a connect with our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think again, with this Gujarati background, sort of known for business. My parents had a shop, so I grew up around business, and actually leaving the corporate world, it kind of, again, it felt natural to step back into what I had grown up with. I suppose my business is different because it offers services, and it offers space, and it offers experiences. So when the lockdown happened, I had to change a lot of the way that I do my business, and I launched the School of Sensual Arts, which is a place that everyone can come to explore that inner wisdom, that inner Shakti, through the ancient arts of yoga, tantra, and circles. And that's really about connecting in with the body and exploring it and expressing it and leaning into desires, and most importantly, leading life by the heart.
That's fascinating. I can get my head around the first two, but circles, you might want to expand on that.
Sure. So these are the women's circles, and I mentioned earlier how the templates of often corporate world are hierarchy. There's a hierarchy. There's someone at the top, and then it goes down. So the circle is really kind of a new template, and it's a place where people come together. We explore a different theme through a meditation or through discussion, and you get a chance to reflect on that for yourself. And I think circles really changed my life because it gave me a space outside of what I was doing at the time to go in, to explore, to learn from the wisdom of other people, and to reset each month, and to really explore myself in this, again, this community container.
Right. So people can come into your circle and maybe orbit for a while and then go out of your circle, and others can come in. Yeah. And everybody can take something from each other, as it were.
Absolutely. And this is the thing. This is how I travel without traveling, in lockdown, that actually learning from different people's experiences is such an incredible way. You may hear something in the circle that you've needed to hear for such a long time. And that's why I say that it's a calling. So if you hear the calling to explore, then to step into that calling and respond. Yeah.
And what does Henika, who is ever so happy yet serious about this whole thing, what does she do to let her hair down? And what does she do to have a bit of fun? Surely you don't meditate to have fun also.
Yeah, well, actually,
you do.
Well, this is a misconception about meditation, because everything can be meditation. So I love to dance. Right. I love movement. I love to express through always bringing people together. I think it's really the heart of what I love to do, both in work and out of work. Yeah, so really about this.
Well, I mean, from ancient times, dancing is seen as a form of meditation. You go into a trance, almost, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a beautiful way to connect with your body, to celebrate. And I don't think anyone ever leaves a dance saying, I wish I hadn't done that. So it's such an instant way to feel better, put on your favorite song and move. Mm-hmm.
So look, that's been a fascinating conversation. I could talk to you for a long time and maybe still haven't quite scratched the surface. Before we let you go, is there anything that is close to your heart that you would like to share other than the message? I might not have asked you all the right questions. I might not have been able to focus on the things that are most important to you, or maybe about the collaboration at Vatika. Is there anything else that you would like to kind of bring out before we kind of let you go?
Yeah, I think my message is to express freely, to love intimately, to lean into your desires, and to really lead life by the heart. This is my message, and this is what I want to share through my life and through my business and through these practices. So I'm going to leave your audience with that and invite you to connect with me in the School of Sensual Arts.
Now, just to round it off, is there anything you would like to give as a message to women in particular, perhaps, and to Radio Maxx listeners on how to connect with their Shakti or their inner Shakti?
Absolutely. So what I would say to women is to listen to your intuition, because this is your Shakti. This is your God-given gift, that you have this intuition that guides you. And this can be explored through your body. So to connect with practices that bring you into the body and that deepen and strengthen your Shakti, your inner strength. And to surround yourself, the final thing, to surround yourself with women who celebrate you, who celebrate their own Shakti and also yours. So we have something called the Women's Circles, which I run. And this is a great place to explore your Shakti and to surround yourself with like-minded, like-hearted women.
Thank you very much, Henika, for joining us. And Radio Maxx, from the listener side and from our side as well, we'd like to say thank you and have yourself a great day, what's left of it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Have a great day, everyone.